Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you are new, if you're not new, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marina and today I am back with a monthly wrap-up that has at this point has become kind of a bi-monthly wrap-up because I'm doing what I did last time, putting 2 months worth of book wrap-ups into one video. Same reason for the last one. I didn't read much last month, but I read enough this month where I think that I can just like combine the two, and I feel like it'll be better than me just talking about 3 books I read per month, you know? Like that's not fun. If I put together the amount of books I have read in the past 2 months, I read 11 books over the past 2 months, and today I'm gonna talk about them and give my ratings and, you know, do regular book wrap-up stuff. So I'm not gonna waste any more time. Let's get into the video. First book I read last month was actually a book that took me 2 months to get through. The first book I'm going to be talking about is The Foxhole Court by Naomi Sakovic. I read this back in January, then I stopped, then I finished it on March 5th. I gave this book a 3 out of 5. If you guys don't know what The Foxhole Court is, from what I remember, this guy named Neil is really good at a sport, like a sport in this book called Xe, right? And he's so good that he's been handpicked to be a part of like this college level team, I think. The thing about Neil is he's on the run from like his mafia family, and he ran away when he was little, and he's just been on the run since. So his whole conflict in the book is making sure that he can play on this team because Xe is his whole life, but also if he plays on the team, because they're like a very like somewhat famous team, then he will have to deal with his family finding out where he is and possibly getting dragged back into the life that he ran away from. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how to feel about this book. Till this day, I still have no clue what to make of this book. It wasn't what I expected at all, and I don't know what I even expected from it. I just didn't expect this. I just felt like everything for this Neil kid has just been placed on his shoulders, and you feel every single like part of it throughout the book, but there are just some things that just didn't have to be as dramatic as it was. Like, I tweeted this out, it felt like I was watching like a telenovela or something. Like, it was just so much compiled into like a pretty short book. I'm pretty sure the book is only like 200-ish pages, but it felt like I was reading like a whole novel of just this kid and how his life kind of sucks, and I felt bad for him, but also like I did get pretty bored. Like at some point, like when I picked back up the book in like mid-February, I had to skim through all like the Xe dialogue and the Xe descriptions because I honestly don't care about sports. I know it's a sports fiction, but I didn't know that going into it. So when I picked it up, I didn't expect to see so much of him playing Xe, even though that's basically the plot of the book. I just didn't care enough for it. I did like the characters for the most part. The only character I had a problem with was the coach, and that's because like his use of the R word was excessive, but even like once is once too many. Like, he was just doing a lot, and I wanted to be like supportive of him because he supported Neil when Neil had literally no one. But yeah, the coach, no, we don't tolerate that. I liked most of the characters. Andrew might be my favorite character, even though he's like arguably the most like problematic, confrontational out of everyone, and the one that Neil probably has a problem with the most out of everyone. I think I like Andrew the most. I felt something between him and Neil. I don't know if it's canon. I'm not reading the rest of the sequels to find out, but I swear I felt a connection of some sort, even though it was mostly anger on both sides. Like, the tension was there, but there was no romance in this book either, so I guess that's why it kind of took me a while to get through it. It was just like nothing was really giving in this book. For the most part, I got through it because I just wanted to make sure that Neil was okay, but even that, I was like, this is just not going where it needs to go. I'm just gonna end it here. Like I said, I will not be reading the rest of the books in the series. I don't need to hear about Xe anymore. Like, I don't care about the sport. Like the characters, but not enough to continue on in the series. So yeah. Next book I read in March was a part of a series that I actually did read all the way through. I read this series in like I think the span of a week or 2. Let's talk about The Summer I Turned Pretty by Miss Jenny Han. If you guys don't know who Jenny Han is, she is the author of the To All the Boys I Loved Before books, and you know, if you've heard of that, you probably have because of the big Netflix series. Yeah, Jenny Han wrote those books, but I'm pretty sure this series came before that one, and this series is getting made into a television series on Amazon Prime. So I heard about the series first before, like the television series, before I heard about the books. So I was like, let me just get into the books just to like feel like I'm ahead of the game, you know? So I finally read them. I read this book in a day. Guys, it's so good. It's so good. I gave it 4.5 stars. Basically, it is centered around this girl named Isabel, but her nickname is Belly. Don't ask questions. I stopped asking questions about it in the first chapter because you're not going to get any answers. She measures her life in summers because every summer is like the best time of her life because she gets to go to this beach house with her brother, her mom, and then her mom's best friends family, and that family consists of the love interests that are in the rest of the books, Jeremiah and Conrad. So Jeremiah and Conrad are brothers. Jeremiah is Belly's best friend, and Conrad is her main love interest, at least in the first book. It's just about like wholesome teenage romance with also a little bit of angst in between, and you know, there's also like, you know, the little love triangle thing with siblings, but there's also like the brother's best friend trope because Belly's older brother is kind of best friends with Jeremiah and Conrad. So it's like it's a lot of mess, guys. It's so messy, but I enjoyed every single second of it. I loved the first book so much. I'm only gonna give the description of the first book because I'm obviously not gonna go into detail about what the sequels are about in case you haven't read it. That would be a complete spoiler. But yeah, this first book, like I said, I read it in a day. I couldn't put it down. So freaking good. This first book, kind of incomparable to the others. Like, that's history right there. I love Jeremiah and Conrad with everything in me. Even like throughout the rest of the series, even though they did a lot of stuff throughout the rest of the series that I didn't like, I really enjoyed them as characters. I thought that they were really funny. I thought that there was a lot of character development for both of them throughout the books, but this first one, like, it really, like I said, it's just a really good way to start off a series with like these characters that are already going through some stuff, and like they go through stuff in the next books as well because of how the first book ended. But it was just like the way that Jenny Han writes out the brothers is in a way like you can't really hate them because you see how much they love each other while also like having to duke it out over Belly over here, who's kind of like in love with one of them or both of them. Who knows? I do, but I'm not going to tell you if you haven't read it. That first book, amazing. I gave her 10s. I gave her 4.5 out of 5. Amazing. Now talk about the second book in the series, It's Not Summer Without You. I gave this book 4 stars. I also read this in the span of a day. I enjoyed this book. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it more than the first one. Doing a lot in terms of like the love triangle. Love triangles are hit or miss. Let me just like point that out first. Love triangles are hit or miss. Most of the time they're misses, but when they hit different. So I enjoyed it in the first book, but in the second book I really started to feel the typical love triangle trope kind of ruined the story. I'll get to that more when I review the third book, but this second book, I enjoyed it. I'm reading my notes, so if you see me looking down and looking at my notes, I can't even say my full review because it spoils how the first book ended, but I enjoyed how things kind of wrapped up when it comes to at least like not Conrad but Jeremiah's character in terms of what happened in the first book, because the brothers were really going through a lot in these sequels, so I just want to make sure at least one of them was okay. And I like how Jeremiah's development in this book was very gradual. We get Jeremiah's point of view in this book, so the sequels are dual POV between Belly and one of the brothers. In the second book, it's Jeremiah's POV. I enjoyed his POV a lot. Like I said, I love both of the brothers, so I was just like, I was doing great. But because of the stuff that Conrad was going through in the second book, I really wish that his point of view was in the second one instead of Jeremiah's, but his is in the third one. So let me just like get to the third one, shall we? We'll Always Have Summer. This one took me 2 days to read. It's also my least favorite one in this series. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. So this is when the love triangle really comes to a head, and it got ridiculously like messy in a terrible way. It was like all of my favorite characters were making terrible choices except for Conrad, but even Conrad was starting to piss me off. Like it was a lot. That last book put me through the ringer. I didn't read anything for I think 2 weeks after I finished the series because that last book, oh, I did not like it. I hope when they make the show that they do something different with it because Belly and Jeremiah were doing a lot. they were doing a lot and I did not enjoy myself. Very stubborn characters, and I knew that anyway, but in this third book, just stubborn beyond belief. Like, it was getting ridiculous. I was like, we need the parents. Where are the parents? And even the parents couldn't do anything. So I was just like, we need Conrad. And even Conrad was too whipped for belly to be talking any sense. Like, I can't explain this book because I don't want to spoil it for you. Just know that, like, so many dumb decisions were made. And I guess, like, it's a happy-ish ending if you're into that sort of thing. So, like, you're not going in there with, like, complete angst, but my goodness, just a mess, a total mess. I gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars. It is definitely my least favorite book in the series, but I guess the ending is worth it depending on how you want to look at it. I will be watching the show. I'm pretty sure the show comes out this summer. Yeah, I will definitely be watching that for sure. So now we have officially hit April. Now, April, I read a lot. I think I read like 8 books. The first one I read was The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. Now, I only read this because one of my coworkers suggested that I read it, and if you're watching this, that one coworker that I'm talking about, you're welcome. I gave it a 4-star. I think, yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It is basically about Tiffy and Leon. Leon needs a roommate. Not really a roommate, but someone to help pay his rent. So Tiffy, who just recently broke up with her boyfriend and needs to move out of his place, also needs an apartment to live in. So they come up with this idea to basically have a flat share. Basically, Leon gets the apartment during day because he works at night, and Tiffy gets the apartment at night because she works in the day. So they never really interact when they share this apartment. They like communicate through post-it notes, which you will see throughout the story. It was my favorite part of the story, and as they form this relationship between post-it notes, the relationship develops into something romantic, and it's very cute, very fun. I will say another reason why it took me a while to get into this book was because I feel like the pacing at the beginning was very, very slow. A lot of stuff about their work lives individually, because this is dual POV, so you get to see from both sides what they have to go through in their lives. I personally do not care about their work drama stuff at all, so that took up at least like the first like quarter of the book, and like those 200 pages, first 200 pages were dragging on. But when they actually started to talk to each other through the post-it notes, I was hooked. I liked both characters. I liked both Tiffy and Leon. I liked the way that the author wrote them, because in their dual POVs you can clearly tell how different they are, like how they process their feelings and their thoughts, and even just like the way that the author writes out their thoughts. Leon has a very minimal way of thinking, which is very blunt sentences and little to no dialogue. Meanwhile, Tiffy's brain is always scattered, and you can see that with the different chapters in their different POVs, which I really, really liked. I think it was my favorite part of the book, being able to see how differently they think, but how well they end up fitting together towards the end of the book. I really liked that a lot. Tiffy's journey with her ex-boyfriend, I like the way that it was written by the author, because I feel like it should be said, there is some emotional and mental abuse happening with Tiffy and her ex and their relationship in general, and it was just really, it was terrible. And the way that Tiffy comes to terms with the way that she was treated in that relationship and how she learns to deal with it is really, really nice. I like that a lot. And I also liked Leon's relationship with his brother Richie. I liked Richie a lot. If this author was to write a separate story for Richie, I would definitely read it. He was definitely my favorite character. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. I feel like no one has ever talked about it. I haven't heard anything from it. If I didn't know about it from my coworker, I feel like I probably wouldn't have heard anything about it. So yeah, give it a read if you want. On to the next books that you guys already know, that I know and love. We're gonna talk about the Heartstopper series. So like I said, you guys already know how I feel about this. If you watch my review of the show, you know that I read the books and I loved the books. So I'm not gonna try and take up too much time on this. Gave each book a 5 out of 5 star rating, obviously. I'm gonna give a summary of the first book, and the first book only because, like I said, it's a series. I don't want to spoil the rest of the series if you haven't read it. If you guys don't know what Heartstopper is, it is basically about these two teenagers, Nick Nelson and Charlie Spring, aka my babies, my loves. I love them with all my heart. And their developing friendship that soon turns into a relationship, and them discovering themselves, not just in terms of like their sexualities, but like who they are as people. Just some really cute, wholesome romance and everything. And the series does a lot talking about like mental health and like making sure there are no like toxic traits going on in the relationships being had throughout any of the characters in the book, because there are multiple relationships that are in focus in this series that aren't Charlie and Nick's. But the author, Alice Oseman, does a really good job of highlighting how relationships, especially queer relationships, can be healthy, which is something that I really enjoyed in this series. Media has this weird thing where they feel like every queer relationship that they show has to be like some toxic, dark, gritty thing that just, it doesn't have to be that way. And Heartstopper does a good way of showing that with all of the relationships that are in this book. It's so great. It's amazing. I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, first book I gave 5 out of 5. Read it in a day. I kind of touched on how I loved the first 2 volumes so much, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this one or this one, but just know that I love them. I love them both. Yeah, we're gonna get into unknown territory. Let's talk about volume 3, aka my favorite volume, which is why I'm hoping it gets, I'm really hoping the show gets a 2nd season, because then it will be covering volume 3 and I'm so ready. Volume 3, I'm not gonna give away too much, but just know that it takes place in Paris, and it's like the school field trip thing, and like the Paris squad goes to Paris, and it's just it's very nice. It's so refreshing. I loved this one. I genuinely, like, this is my favorite one out of the series. I loved Nick and Charlie. I loved Tara. I loved Elle. I loved Darcy. I loved Tao. I love Alan. I loved it all. I loved it all. I loved how the story was slowly developing into something that the first 2 didn't. Like, it touched more on like heavy topics, but not in a way that it felt exploitive. It was handled respectfully and done so well. And the topics in this one were also touched more in depth with the 4th volume. The 4th volume, I think I gave this one a higher rating than the 3rd one, but this one's still my favorite. I think I gave this one like a 5.7 out of 5. Loved it. I loved it. The 3rd one will always have a special place in my heart, but I do love this one. This one takes place right after the 3rd one, so it's right after they come back from like their Paris trip. So all of the events that took place in the 3rd volume have a really heavy impact on this one. Like I said, the series does deal with a lot of like mental health issues, and I suggest you check the trigger warnings, although I'm pretty sure they're in the beginning of each book. While reading this one, I definitely did cry. I felt a lot of emotions. It was a lot for me. I was reading it all in one sitting, crying my eyes out every other page and squealing, and just it was a lot of emotions with this one, which is why I gave it such a heavy rating, because I don't think any book has made me feel the way that this one does. Guys, this is like one of my favorite series ever. It's crazy. I need the 5th volume immediately, but since this 4th volume just came out a few months ago, I know I'm gonna have to wait like another year or 2, which is fine. I need the show to go on to have many seasons so I can get to this one, because I already know that Kit Connor and Jill Locke are going to definitely like make me weep and cry, and I'm so ready for it. It's so rare that you find like a healthy, prospering relationship when it comes to like one of the people in the relationship having to deal with mental health issues. I like how one of the characters dealt with it. They felt like they had to just help this person all on their own, even though every character in this book is a child. Like they're all ranging from like 15 to I think 16 or 17. They're all children, so no one should have to like deal with that on their own. So I'm glad that like in this book it touched on how the kids reached out to like their parents, and like they needed help. They couldn't deal with it all on their own. They didn't want to have to take on their specific others mental health challenges all on their own. Like they shouldn't have to solve it for them. It's not their job. And the way that Alice Oseman wrote that in this book, loved it even more. I was like, thank you. Because love can't solve mental illness. Like, I'm sorry guys, I know that that's the trope that everyone loves to throw around, but it's just not true. And Heartstopper did a good job of touching on that. Okay, I can't talk about Heartstopper anymore, or else I will spend this whole video doing it, and you guys probably don't need to, you don't want to watch that. But yeah, overall Heartstopper, 5 out of 5, excellent series, one of my favorite series of all time. And I will be reading the rest of like Alice Oseman's books, because I know that the side characters in this have like their own series or books that Alice Oseman has written, and I want to get into like the whole Alice Oseman universe. I feel like I'm going to really enjoy that, so I think I'm going to dedicate my summer to doing that, because when I tell you guys I love every single character in this book, I'm not lying. Like, I will read each of their stories. I'm so excited. If I could just like jump into any book and protect specific characters or friend groups, it would definitely be Heartstopper. I would do it for the show, and I would do it for like the actual book. It's just, I need to protect them at all costs. I'm also protecting the cast of Heartstopper because y'all are being weird on Twitter again when it comes to literal children. I've been seeing it. I'm gonna protect the cast, and I'm going to protect the characters at all costs because y'all are weirdos. Next book I'm going to be talking about is a book that I read in between reading Heartstopper. I'm going to be talking about Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. How do I put this book into words? Because this book also made me very emotional and tear up. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. It's kind of excellent. I thought you guys were lying, because one of the books that is going to be in this wrap up, y'all did lie to me and said it was very excellent. Y'all are liars sometimes, but not with this one. The hype is deserved. It's basically about this girl. She is running away from her old life and trying to start new in a new state, a new town. And while being in the small town, I'm pretty sure it's like in Maine or something, I don't know, she runs into this man, Archer. Now he's kind of like the town outcast, like everyone knows of him, but like no one actually talks to him. Everyone thinks that he's like a weirdo because he just doesn't talk to anyone. But she runs into him and she thinks that, hey, he's a decent person, like he looks like a decent person, he just likes his own space, his own time, and they start forming like a friendship, and it's so wholesome because like he is the town outcast, like no one talks to him, but it's only because like he doesn't talk back, but no one ever asks why he doesn't talk, and it's because he just can't. He can't speak, but him and the main character, they communicate in ASL, and it's just so freaking cute, guys. This is one of my favorite romance books as well. Like, so many good romance books this month, so good. While their friendship was developing, of course, a romantic relationship develops, and you get to know more about Archer and his past and why he's unable to talk, and why the town looks at him and the rest of his family, because he has like cousins and like step family members as well, but they just don't talk to him. So like you get to understand why he is the way he is and why he just doesn't talk to anyone, why people view him the way he does. It's kind of like a whodunit thing, like there's a mystery aspect in it as well that I really liked. Gave it a 4.5 out of 5 because I loved it so much. I would have given it a 5 stars, but I feel like they did something towards the ending that was so unnecessary, that made my heart stop, that made me cry unnecessarily. That was resolved within the last 50 pages, but it just didn't need to be in there. Like, it kind of pissed me off, so I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just like how in Heartstopper, I like how this book wasn't trying to solve mental illness with love, because that's just not realistic. There's a lot of internal issues that both the main character and Archer have, and Archer deals with this with his own way, and the main character had to learn to just respect that and let him try and become his own person and get a feel of himself in his own way without trying to force it, which I really appreciated. Because the main character does go through she goes through a lot of stuff too, stuff from her old town. Like, these two people that went through some really fucked up shit found each other, and they help each other along the way, not to like fix them, but to just show each other that like life is worth living. And it's a beautiful love story. Mia Sheridan has become one of my favorite authors just from this one book alone. I know that she has another book out. I might read that as well. I have no idea what it's called, but I trust her. I think I can trust her. Like, she's won me over just with this one book alone. It's so good. And yeah, that's Archer's Voice. I recommend it if you haven't read it already, but I'm pretty sure it's like one of TikTok's new, like, not new, but like one of their favorite romance books to hype up, and that hype is deserved. Last book I'm going to talk about is a romance book that TikTok hypes up that I feel like is not deserved. Let's talk about Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. If you guys watch my reading vlog, you guys know how I feel about this book already. I'm not really going to go into too much detail about it because I mentioned my thoughts briefly in my reading vlog about it, but yeah, I just didn't like this book. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars, 2.5 out of 5 stars. It is about Catalina, who is supposed to be going to her sister's wedding in a few weeks' time, and The problem with that is her ex-boyfriend is gonna be there because her ex-boyfriend is the groom's brother. So she's like, oh no, I can't go there alone and look like an idiot loner person because her ex-boyfriend is apparently engaged. She's like, I need a date. I need someone to go to this wedding with me. And Aaron volunteers. She hates Aaron Blackford and he hates her, I guess. The whole entire story is them basically having to learn how to trust each other enough to look like they're in love for 3 days while she's in Spain for this wedding. I did not enjoy this at all, which is so sad because I had high hopes. I thought I would, but alas, I did not. I felt like the main character was so two-dimensional and I just couldn't get into her. There were some points where I found her very annoying, but then there were some points where I found Aaron very annoying. So I guess you could just say that like the main characters just were not it in this book. I've been seeing this book all over my Twitter timeline for so long. Like I've been seeing you guys hype up Aaron Blackford, this man, for like a good 2-3 months. And it was just so disappointing. The pacing was off. I felt like most of the book should have taken place in Spain, but yet we were in New York for half the time because that's where her and Aaron live. They live in New York where they also work together. I didn't know that the Spain trip was only going to be 3 days. It felt like it because I feel like the Spain trip only took 100, maybe 150-ish pages to get through. So most of this book is taking place in New York. I felt like I've been bamboozled. I feel like I've been lied to because if you read the synopsis on the back, you would think that most of this book took place in Spain for the wedding. That's not the case. Getting to the point where we actually were in Spain was a lot. I was getting bored in the beginning, like I almost DNF'd it. I didn't know that it was an office romance, like a workplace romance. I had no idea. So going into that, oh wow, okay, I have no problem with workplace romance. I'm not the biggest fan of fake dating either, but I just wanted to give it a chance just so I could see why y'all hyped up this book so much. Like I'm willing to give anything a chance just to see what it's about, you know. And I did not like it, but I don't think I can blame it all on the fake dating. I just think that the pacing of it just threw me off. Like there was so much where nothing was really happening in this book, and where I felt like the main characters took like 1 step forward and like 10 steps back when it comes to the progression of their relationship. It was doing a lot, yet nothing. It gave me nothing. I'm done. Those are all the books that I read in March and April. If you guys enjoyed this, thank you. If you'd like to talk to me about the books I read or recommend me more books to read, here's my Twitter. I mostly interact on Twitter, but if you like to, you know, let me know about other recommendations that you might have. You can also follow me on all my other social medias and they will be linked in the description below. I think that's it. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye everyone.